I offered to help set up for a family event. My father-in-law said, "You'd only slow us down." My mother-in-law added, "Why do you always need to be involved?" My husband said, "It's better if we let them handle it." I stepped back, but I also called the caterer, the DJ, and the florist, and canceled every last service. The look on their faces when no one showed up was worth everything. I've been sitting on this for over a year now, and I still think about it more than I should. I didn't tell anyone, not my friends, not my sister, not even my therapist, because I needed one thing, to see it crash. And it did. I've been married to Matt for 12 years. We live in Plano, Texas. No kids. We both work full-time. He's in tech, I do administrative work for a local insurance group. It's nothing fancy, but it pays the bills and gives us stability. His parents? Whole different story. They're old Plano money. His dad, Ron, used to run a big construction company, retired early. His mom, Carol, is the type of woman who wears pearls to the grocery store. Their whole life revolves around image, reputation, appearances. From the minute Matt brought me home, I knew I wasn't what they wanted. I didn't go to the right college, didn't come from the right zip code, didn't know how to hold a wine glass properly. And they never let me forget it. At the wedding, Carol tried to talk Matt into having a family-only reception, code for excluding my side. I found out later. Ron asked me during our rehearsal dinner if my dad worked with his hands or just collected disability. I laughed it off back then. Told myself they'd come around. They never did. Over the years, it chipped away at me. Every time we went over to their house, I'd feel like a damn outsider. They'd talk around me. Carol once handed me her coat at Christmas and said, "You can just put that in the hall closet, dear." Like I was the help. And Matt? He used to stand up for me. But as the years went by, he just folded. Said it was easier to keep the peace. That it wasn't worth the drama. So, I learned to keep my mouth shut. Smile. Swallow it. Be the good wife. But last spring, that finally broke. Ron and Carol's 40th wedding anniversary was a huge deal to them. They planned this massive party at one of those country club banquet halls on the edge of town, right near the Legacy West area. They were obsessed with every detail. Catered dinner, DJ, string lights, huge floral arrangements. All about showing off. Matt got dragged in immediately. He was their golden child, the one who made it. Every weekend, he was running errands for them. I stayed out of it. I didn't want the fight. Then one night, maybe 3 weeks before the party, we were over at their house. Everyone was talking schedules and vendors. Carol was showing off fabric swatches for the table linens. Ron had this stupid binder with floor plans like he was running a military op. I tried to offer help. Genuinely. I said, "Hey, I have the morning of the party free. Do you want me to help set up? Coordinate anything with the vendors?" I wish I had a recording of what happened next. Ron didn't even look up from his iPad. He said, "You'd only slow us down." Like I was a burden. Carol chimed in. She actually laughed and said, "Why do you always need to be involved? Some things aren't about you, you know." And Matt, my husband, my partner, my supposed teammate, he didn't defend me. He didn't even hesitate. He just looked over at me and said, "It's probably better if we let them handle it. Less stress for everyone." I didn't say anything. I just nodded, got up, went to the bathroom, and sat there for a full 10 minutes. Not crying. Not even mad yet. Just stunned. Cold. I had given this family years of patience. Bites of my tongue. Holidays with people who made me feel like a maid. I never made waves. Never called them out. And in one breath, they made it clear. I wasn't part of the family. I was a guest. An outsider. A thing to be tolerated. So I stopped trying. That night, I didn't sleep much. I lay awake staring at the ceiling, thinking about all the things I never said. And then I started thinking about how fragile these events really are. I used to do admin for a nonprofit here in Plano. We ran annual galas and fundraisers. I knew how vendors operated. I knew the timelines. I knew the contracts. I also knew very well that most of them were one phone call away from cancellation. And suddenly, it all became very clear. They didn't want me involved? Fine. I wouldn't be. Neither would anyone else. I waited a few days. Let things cool. Let everyone assume I was over it. Then I started with the caterer. I remembered the name from a flyer Carol left in our kitchen. Local place out of Fort Worth. I found the number, waited until mid-morning on a weekday when I knew Carol was at her tennis club, and called. I used her voice. Polite, clipped, entitled. I said there'd been a death in the family and the event had to be canceled. I made sure to reference the client ID. She'd left it on a sticky note on the fridge. They asked for a verbal confirmation. I gave it.
Done.
Then the DJ. He was some younger guy from McKinney. Carol bragged about how young and fresh he was. I called him next. Said the event had been rescheduled. I asked if we could rebook for the fall. He apologized, said okay, and canceled the current booking. Last, the florist. This one was harder. She'd already paid a deposit. I couldn't get a refund, but I did manage to push the order off the schedule. Told them we were postponing due to illness. It was enough to take them off the delivery list. I did all of this in one day. Then I waited. The morning of the party, I acted completely normal. I even brought a dress to change into at the venue. Matt left early to help set up. I said I'd come closer to the start time. When I arrived, everything was chaos. No food.
No decorations. No DE.
The venue was open and empty. Ron was on his phone screaming at someone. Carol was near tears, yelling at a poor teenage server who clearly had no idea what was going on. Guests were arriving. People were confused. Everyone dressed up, looking around like they were early to the wrong wedding. And me? I stood by the back wall, watching,
Taking it in.
And when Matt walked over, sweaty, pale, frantic, he said, "Do you know what happened?" I just smiled, and I said, "I guess they didn't confirm." He didn't speak for a few seconds.
He just looked at me.
Like he was starting to realize something. And that was enough. After that night, everything changed between me and Matt. It wasn't loud. It wasn't some dramatic blow-up. It was quieter than that, more dangerous, honestly. He didn't ask questions. He didn't accuse me outright. But I could feel it in how he looked at me. Like I was someone he didn't recognize anymore. And maybe I wasn't. The morning after the party, we barely spoke. He got up early, left for the gym like it was any other Sunday. I stayed in bed. Not asleep, just thinking. Around 2 p.m., Carol called him. I heard her voice on speaker from the living room. She was crying or pretending to. I couldn't tell anymore. I don't understand, Matt. We confirmed everything. Everything. That DJ even texted me last week. What kind of company does that to people? He didn't say much. Just kept repeating, "I know, Mom. I know." She went on for a good 10 minutes. Complained about how the caterer wouldn't pick up. How guests were talking. How embarrassed she felt. She even said people were looking at me like I was some kind of fraud. That last part made me smile. Later, Matt came into the kitchen while I was unloading the dishwasher. He leaned against the counter and said, "You really didn't hear anything? You didn't notice anything off?" I didn't look at him. I just said, "They didn't want my help, remember?" He didn't reply. Just stood there for a while and walked out. 2 days later, his sister Amy called. Now Amy and I never got along. She's 3 years younger than Matt, lives in Frisco, works in real estate. She's one of those people who always talks like she's on camera. Always on. Fake smiles, fake concern. She called me directly. "Hey, so I don't want this to sound accusatory or anything, but Mom's kinda losing it. She thinks maybe you did something. She said you looked smug or something." I told her that was ridiculous, but I just thought I'd check. I almost laughed, but I didn't. I said, "Why would I sabotage a party I wasn't even allowed to help with?" She paused. "Yeah."
No, totally.
I told her that. It just, you know how Mom gets when things go wrong. I said, "Sure. She blames people." "Exactly," Amy said. "Anyway, just wanted to make sure we're cool." I hung up without saying goodbye. A week passed. Then 2. Then the rumors started. Matt came home from work one night and said his dad was looking into legal action against one of the vendors. Said Ron wanted to sue for breach of contract. He asked me half casually if I'd heard anything else from the caterer or DJ. I said, "You think I called them?" He didn't answer. Instead, he just looked down at his plate and said, "I don't know what to think anymore." That hurt more than I expected. But the pain didn't stop there. Ron actually did file small claim suits, one against the caterer and one against the florist. Carol posted this whiny Facebook status about being betrayed by people you trust. She didn't name names, but people in her circle knew what it was about. The local gossip circles were eating it up. Country club drama is their favorite kind. Then Amy's husband, Kevin, ran into Matt at a bar and made a joke that went too far. He said, "Hey, next time Carol throws a party, maybe your wife can stay home and keep her hands off the phone lines." Matt told me about it 2 days later. He said it like he was annoyed, but the fact that he told me at all told me something. People were talking. They had suspicions. Matt wasn't defending me anymore.
Not to them.
Not to himself. Then came the last straw. I went to grab lunch with a coworker one day, and when I came back, Matt was home early. I found him sitting at my desk in the spare room. My email open. Vendor folders pulled up. Old planning docs from my nonprofit days. He didn't even look guilty. Just said, "You really planned this out, didn't you?" I stared at him. I said, "You went through my private files?" He said, "You sabotaged my parents." I said, "They humiliated me. You let them." Then it all came out. Everything I'd swallowed for years. I told him how his parents treated me like garbage. How he stood there like a statue every time they made a snide comment. How he let them treat me like an accessory, not a person. I told him the truth. That I called the vendors, yes. That I did it alone. That I made sure no one showed up. And that I didn't regret it. Not even a little. He didn't yell. He didn't slam doors. He just left.
He stayed at a hotel that night.
Maybe 2 nights. I don't remember. I stayed home. And I waited. Because I knew this wasn't over. Not even close. Matt came back home on the 3rd night. I was on the couch watching TV with the volume low. He walked in, dropped his overnight bag by the door, and stood there like he didn't know what to say. Finally, he sat down. "You made your point," he said. I didn't answer. I just stared at the screen. Then he added, "But you also blew up my relationship with my parents." That's when I looked at him. "No," I said. "They did that. Years ago." I just pulled the curtain back.
He didn't argue.
Just leaned back, rubbed his face like he hadn't slept. And then, out of nowhere, he said something that stuck with me. "You didn't just ruin their party. You ruined our safety net." That's when it clicked. It was never really about loyalty or respect. It was about what they gave him. The down payment they helped with. The times Ron helped out when money was tight. The inheritance they constantly reminded us we were part of. That whole financial umbilical cord. Matt wasn't angry because I hurt his parents. He was angry because I messed with his position. A week later, we got a certified letter from Ron's lawyer. Not to me, to Matt. It was notice of intent to revise estate planning. Basically, a formal warning that they were removing him from their will. Matt was livid. He didn't talk to me for days. I heard him on the phone late one night saying things like, "I didn't know she'd do that. Of course I'm not okay with it. What do you want me to say?" I don't know if he was talking to Ron or Carol. Maybe both. Maybe Amy too. But the message was clear. He was trying to do damage control. Without me. Then the second twist came, and I didn't see this one coming. Carol filed a police report. Not about fraud. Not criminal charges. But a report was filed claiming malicious interference with private business arrangements. The florist and caterer both received inquiries from a Plano PD detective. Nothing stuck. These were civil matters, not criminal, but still. A real report. Real paperwork. And they used my name. Carol gave it to the officer, claiming she was almost certain I impersonated her on the phone. Which I did. But no proof. No recordings. No email trail. The vendors didn't want trouble. They wanted it over with. But the damage? The damage was real. My employer got wind of it. I was pulled into a meeting with HR 2 weeks later after someone anonymously forwarded them the report. I wasn't fired, but I was moved to a back-office role. No more client-facing duties. I lost the promotion I was in line for. That was when the anger turned into something else. Matt watched it happen. Watched me unravel. And he still didn't do a damn thing. Here's the third twist. I found out Matt had been texting Amy late at night. Not just checking in. Not just family talk. I saw one message light up on his phone when he left it charging in the kitchen. Amy, you know Mom would take you back and if you walked away.
Just saying.
You don't owe her your whole life. Her. Not Carol.
Me.
I scrolled further back. There were weeks of it. Amy feeding him stories about how I was toxic, manipulative, always playing victim. She told him he'd changed since marrying me, that she missed the old Matt. He never defended me. Not once. That's when I stopped waiting for things to go back to normal. Matt wasn't mine anymore. He hadn't been for a long time. He belonged to them. He just hadn't admitted it yet. But I was done hoping. And that's when I started planning something new. Something quieter than before.
Not sabotage this time.
Something legal.
Documented.
Sharp. Because if they thought that was the end, they had no idea what was coming next. After I saw those texts between Matt and Amy, something broke clean inside me. Not like a crack. More like a separation. Like finally stepping outside of a house you didn't realize was on fire. I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. The next day, I took the morning off work and called a lawyer. A real one. Not someone cheap or quick. A woman in Dallas who specialized in high-asset divorce and spousal sabotage cases. I met with her in person. Told her everything. I didn't dramatize it. I didn't cry. I laid it all out in plain terms. 12 years of being treated like a second-class citizen by his family, the financial games they played, the verbal abuse, the silence from Matt, the betrayal. I showed her the texts. I showed her the HR report. She leaned back, folded her hands, and said, "We can work with this." Here's the truth Matt never expected. Everything we had was in both our names. The house. My name's on the deed. So is the loan. The retirement fund? I matched his contributions dollar for 7 years. The savings account? I paid into it more than he did. So when I filed, I didn't just file for divorce. I filed with a full forensic accounting request. I wanted a full look at how much his parents had funneled into our finances. Because once it hit our joint assets, it wasn't just his anymore. I had receipts, statements, copies of Venmo transfers, emails from Ron gifting us $15,000 for a new HVAC, Carol paying off one of Matt's private student loans. And that safety net he was so worried about? I pulled it straight out from under him. When Matt got served, he didn't say a word. He came home, dropped the envelope on the counter, and just stood there. "So that's it," he said. "You're just done?" I looked him in the eye and said, "You were done first. You just didn't say it out loud." He moved out 2 days later. Went to stay with his parents.
Perfect.
Over the next 3 months, things got messy. Carol tried to freeze accounts, failed. Ron sent me a letter through his lawyer, demanding the return of gifted funds. Also failed. My lawyer handled it all. The court sided with me. I got the house. I got half the retirement. I got 60% of our liquid savings after proving Matt had tried to secretly shift money into a hidden account under his sister's business name. Yep, found that too. It was sloppy. Amy used her work email for the transfer confirmation. They underestimated me. They thought I was the girl who would keep her head down and stay quiet. They forgot I was watching, listening, waiting. After the divorce was finalized, Matt tried to have a real conversation. He showed up at the house one afternoon unannounced. Said he just wanted to clear the air. I let him in. He sat on the couch like he used to and said, "I didn't mean for it to go this far. I just didn't know how to fix it." I said, "You didn't want to fix it. You wanted me to keep absorbing everything." To keep shrinking so you could stay comfortable. He didn't deny it. He didn't apologize either. He just looked tired. He said, "I hope you got what you wanted." I stood up and walked him to the door. "I didn't get what I wanted," I said. "But I got what I deserved, which is better." And I closed the door. Here's how it ended, if you're wondering. Carol and Ron's social circle dried up. Word got out about what happened. Not the full story, just enough to stain their reputation. The vendors blacklisted them. Their country club paused their event privileges. Amy's real estate license came under review for misusing client funds when she tried to shift money for Matt. I didn't have to shout. I just let them eat each other alive.
Quiet. Clean. Done.
Sometimes people ask me if I regret it. If I'd go back and do it differently.
No.
I gave them 1,000 chances to treat me like a person. They wanted war and whispers. So I gave them silence in return. And in that silence, they lost everything. And I found peace.